Hello everyone and welcome to His Author's Voice. And I am the author, Jack Sanger. This new story has a basis in reality. But more of that later. In the meantime, we meet a man with little, he thinks, going for him. I hope you enjoy the tale. The Memento. There was a before and an after. There was a man and then a renaissance of that man. There was meaninglessness that became meaning. If I am to make sense of events, I should take the 11th of June 2023, 11 a.m., as ground zero, or 1.0 if you prefer. Before that is history. After that is the ever-present, the now. Let me start with the history. I had not had what might be termed a happy and fulfilling life up to that time and date. Even so, I certainly couldn't include myself in the tiny fraction of victims who could rightly think of themselves as having been chosen and blighted by an unforeseen and terrible fate. Rather, I drifted of my own accord on a sea of ennui. Life was monochrome. I had a successful career as a building project manager. I was respected by both the gangs of on-site workers and the senior executives, largely because I was efficient and fair, but brooked no ineptitude or slacking on the job. I knew everyone saw me as cold, unsympathetic and distant, and indeed, I wouldn't quarrel with that point of view. To me, work was just a chess game. Phases of work had to be decided and executed in the right order to achieve the results required with the least entropy. I was not emotionally engaged at any time. I had had 2 short, failed marriages. Why the 2 women concerned ever believed a life with me was possible seems barely credible now. Before that, there was a childhood of working on my father's farm. He was also a survivor of 2 marriages, the first somehow producing me. All the while, I attended a village school with a domineering harridan of a head teacher, an all-boys grammar school and a local polytechnic college. Eventually, my father sold the farm to developers, building an estate on the periphery of the village, just before I went to college. I watched as the diggers ploughed up the topsoil. The chainsaw gangs cut down the copses and hedges, and the stream was diverted to neighbouring grateful landowners. The rich piece of countryside where once I'd been a happy innocent child, ignorant of adult ways, chasing butterflies and catching sticklebacks, had now become a sandy plateau. Thus, at 45 years old, I had a good job, inheritance in the bank, a house with walled garden, a 4x4, and a blanket of emptiness slowly suffocating me. I went to the gym 3 times a week to stay fit and extend, for some unaccountable reason, my life. I thrashed the treadmill, watching myself detachedly in the wall-to-ceiling mirrors. I was tall and well-muscled, short-haired, brown-eyed, and with the adornment of a carefully topiaried moustache. On the face of it, all the markings of a middle-class, privileged lifestyle. Let me at this point leave my history and describe for you my now. I'm 50 years old, and the last 5 years have seen a climactic change in who I have become. I live in a commune on an island off the Scottish mainland. Our only connection to the rest of humanity is by radio and a once-a-week ferry. The 22 residents of this isle live in a longhouse. We generate electricity from a waterfall, have enough flat land to grow crops, and enough money invested in ethical renewables out there in the commercial world to buy and bring in the few tools, seeds, and other extras that enhance our subsistence culture by ferry. I look at myself now and see the change in me as clear as a full moon in a cloudless night sky. It is as though my skin in that time before was thick rubber, and I looked at the world through a visor. I passed by on the other side like a stranger, unaffected by it and unconnected to it. I never felt the desire to actually touch it, feel it, smell it, or taste it. Now, what can I say? It will all sound so hippy-dippy, zen-awake and hokey-pokey to my old self, but it is what it is, and I'm so grateful. Now, in my commune of like spirits, I move through this natural island world with an insatiable hunger to sink forever into it, wallow in it, feel its vibrant energy. Everything around me is alive and vibrating and interconnected. It is living and dying and being reborn moment by moment. I see colours I've never known, hear music I've never heard, taste flavours that are new and sublime. And it is in continual flux everywhere. It is an ocean of sensual, interconnected consciousness which penetrates every atom inside me. I know that I'm alive in the way that mystics through time have described. I am at one with existence, a transient element of it, which in turn will die and be reshaped within it. This is the reborn me. What changed? How did it happen? Let me go back now to the early summer of 2023. I attended a client meeting with my team, plus an architect and an executive. An astrophysicist, TV celebrity, had bought a rundown property with acreage and wanted it developed. I'd worked with the architect before, which made it easy to sort out logistics. The client wanted a controlled wilderness, his words, and a completely off-grid, zero-carbon renovated Georgian farmhouse. This was at least a new challenge for me. Normally my work involved bending planning restrictions to maximise land use and profit, fitting as many houses as possible into smaller and smaller spaces had always been the challenge. I met the Star Watcher one day for coffee on his land to discuss some niceties about perimeter fencing and the surface of his driveway. He was the same age as me, but long-haired, casually dressed, goatee bearded, and somewhat intense of the eye. We sat on the old cracked terracotta-tiled terrace that encircled the house. I spoke little except to ask questions for clarification. Of particular note was his desire to have no light emission from the house. Light noise, he called it. He was creating an observatory out of an outbuilding, and with no nearby properties would therefore have an unaffected view of the night skies. Once our business was concluded, he asked me what I knew of the heavens. I had the usual smattering of knowledge. The Milky Way, the Pole Star, the Plough. Beyond that, very little. Well, he said amusedly, there's a bit more to it than that. Do you know what convinced me to buy this place? The clincher? No, I replied. Follow me. He led me to a small clump of shimmering aspens. I followed as he pushed his way through tangled ground cover, and there, among the deadly nightshade, the brambles and the nettles, was a funny oval of earth the size of an upturned dustbin lid. Here doth lie the site of a meteor strike. He grinned. I discovered it when I was checking every inch of the property. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, craggy, egg-shaped bit of metallic-looking rock. I haven't had time to dig about yet, but there'll be more like this, I expect. In fact, he bent down and scuffed the earth with a boot. Look at that, the very thing. He stood up. Go on, pick it up. It's yours, a memento. I'm superstitious. I believe it's phenomenally good luck to be the first human to handle a billions-year-old piece of the universe that's travelled thousands of light years to get here. Think what worlds it has experienced, what wonders, what life forms. When you need stimulation in your life, put it to your ear like a seashell and listen to the cosmos. I picked it up. It was silver and black, heavyish and thumbnail-sized. It was an extraordinary sensation, being, as he said, the first to touch it. There was an immediate tingle of electricity fizzing in my palm. All my senses were momentarily awakened and besieged by the intensity of the world around me. I staggered. I was exposed, vulnerable, open. I steadied myself and put it in my wallet at precisely 11 a.m. on June the 11th, 2023. Well, that was the memento. I said at the outset that it had some basis in reality. Well, that was stretching it a bit. The other day, a Moroccan friend brought me a fragment of meteorite that landed near his parents' home in Morocco. I was utterly bewitched by its provenance. Since which time it is being encased in a silver ball, and I shall wear it around my neck. Thus, the billions of years and the journey of light years will encircle me and stimulate further writing. If you haven't read them already, the last two stories with a twist deal with the anomalies of time and the nature of consciousness. I hope you browse through the 40 or so stories accumulated thus far on this channel. Please subscribe and be informed as more appear. If you like reading, as well as listening to artful fiction, then go to my website www.jacksanger.com, and there you'll find novels, plays and short stories which you can download for free or even make a donation. It's entirely up to you. So there we are. Let me remind you to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Go in peace. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.